Hello, this is my Judging in the Digital Age program, and let's see if it works. This is the abbreviated version just so you can see the basics of it. If I were giving this in person, it would be a regular length. So let me share a screen and we'll get started. Let's see if this is going to work. Maybe not. Hold on a second. All right, here we go. All right, so it's Judging in the Digital Age. Uh, when I first created this, it was several years ago when people had just made the jump from film to digital. So that's why I was interested in this. All right, judges obviously are a big part of camera clubs. They offer a well done to our members, and they act as teachers for the newer members of the club. A panel of judges can make for an enjoyable evening. There will be disagreements whenever people discuss photography or anything else for that matter. So here's what I'll cover in my discussion: types of photography, the basics of a good artistic photograph, scoring, commenting, pitfalls to avoid, issues with digital photography, extending the vision of camera clubs, and then I'll give some examples of how to score and comment. And at the end of the program, you will get the chance to be the judge. So, under types of photography, I found a book called the Snapshot Book many years ago that said that the discussion of photography and art has raged for so long that people tend to forget that photography itself is neutral. Yes, it can be used to try to create something that is somewhat artistic. It could just be used to record memories of vacations, maybe family members. It doesn't even matter if the photographs are that good. If they're of family members, you may still cherish them. Photographs can be of places you've gone. They can be scenic. They could be close-ups, models. And these days we see some creative photography, especially with the advent of digital photography. So why have I spent time talking about these different kinds of photography? Because most camera clubs photography is judged, in my opinion, as artistic photography. So what are the basics of a good artistic photograph? Technical quality, composition, interest, and impact. That's the way that I have put it. Others might have this a little bit different, but we're still after the same thing. First is technical quality. How is the exposure? Is it nice and sharp, at least the parts that we want to be sharp? If it is a nicely exposed photograph, it'll have good impact. Underexposed photographs tend to lose a lot. Overexposed photographs may lose a lot of detail. Next is composition, which is creating order in a photograph. I do subscribe to the KISS principle of keeping it simple. So this type of photograph, has some merit to it. but it's very cluttered. It's difficult to keep your eye on the center of interest, though the boat, the larger boat in the bottom certainly is the center of interest. Likewise here, lots of pretty flowers, but it's difficult to find a real center of interest. Now, this photograph, while it isn't a great one, does at least have a center of interest and even a secondary center of interest. We tend not to want to put our subject dead center in the middle of the frame, especially if he's facing away from the camera. You may have heard it said that two subjects are not quite as good as three. It seems to have a better balance to it with three subjects. If you are going to use two subjects, having them different sizes or on different angles might help the composition. Leading lines can lead your eye to the center of interest. You can try reversing photographs if that helps the composition. To tell you the truth, I can't even remember the way that this was first taken. I think it was probably taken this way and then reversed because I liked it better this way. But maybe you like it better this way. If it isn't a subject that would be readily, recognizable as being the wrong direction, you certainly can reverse photographs. I took this photograph because I thought it made a nice, simple composition. The artist painting the lighthouse was colored in basically the same way as the lighthouse. Next, our interest and impact. I'm considering them together. You might separate these. So what does create interest and impact? Well, a close-up is one way of doing it. We don't see a lot of sports photography, but having a good action shot can create interest and impact. On the other hand, a solitary, tranquil scene such as this one can have a lot of emotional appeal and be very interesting. A different camera angle, such as this looking up at this flower, may create a different and therefore interesting and impactful image. This one has impact based on the colors, the sunset, or I'm sorry, sunrise in this case. And I think the inclusion of that, I guess it's a dead tree with some branches over in the lower left, I think really fills in that part of the frame and adds some interest to it. So there you have the basics of technical quality, composition, interest, and impact. Next comes the scoring. And I'm going to change to my next sequence. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And we're going to go to the next sequence and hope that this is going to work. All right, so okay, so when you're judging in camera clubs, you are judging a variety of different images. You might have to judge a model and then a landscape, followed by a nature scene. So if we're trying to view our photographs as artistically done, how do you put a number on a work of art? There are lots of numbers to choose from. I haven't included the half points that many clubs, including ours, are using today. But here are what the numbers mean, at least to me. Most scoring systems tend to go from about 5 or 6 up to a high of 9 or 10. And here's what each number means. So first of all, why not start with 1, 2, or 3? I've been asked that before. And my answer is, well, because you don't want to give the very lowest score that you possibly can, and giving a 4 or 5 or even 6 does get the point across. A 4 is, I've said, seldom used. I would say I would include that in never used these days. It's very poor quality. A 5 even is not used very much today. It's a poor quality image, maybe very overexposed or underexposed, out of focus. There's a lot that could be improved. 6 used to be called fair quality. I would say that today it certainly is not a good image. Now, it may be technically good, but it lacks composition or lacks interest, or the opposite may be true. It may have composition and interest, but lack technical quality. 7 is, well, we used to call it a good quality image. I don't want to see 7s for my own images, so I would say that it's, fair to good. It's technically good. It has some good composition. It maybe has some interest, but it has a number of things that could be improved upon. So 3 7s from 3 judges would give you 21 points, which I would say is not a great score. So that means we're really working a lot of times with 8s, 9s, and up to 10. An 8 is very good quality, technically very good, with very good composition. It has interest and impact brought about by strong color, texture, patterns, mood, etc. 9s and 10s I've lumped together. They're excellent quality, and there really is not much other than the personal choice of the judge to distinguish these. So all the preceding attributes plus dramatic impact, uniqueness, strong emotional appeal, dramatic lighting, or something that elevates it to this level. Most clubs, I believe, have their members in various classes. Ours uses Class B and Class A. Others may call them something else. And we do separate the images based on class. So if you know the class beforehand, then you can use that when you are judging. Perhaps this would be an 8 in Class B, maybe, I'm sure, only a 7 or so in Class A. This one's a better shot. I would certainly think that this is worth an 8 in Class B, even 8.5, maybe even up to 9. In Class A, probably in the 8 range. So if you don't separate into classes, then you tend to get a lot of scores that are about the same. And I've judged at clubs before where they don't want to separate the classes, and the result is lots of ties, which I don't think anybody really wants. Here are some methods of scoring. Judge against a standard of perfection. I don't think too many of us do that. Judge against others in this competition. Yes, if you have a run through before, then you can do that. And judge against others in a particular class. Yes, again, if you know the class beforehand and you've had a run through, then you can kind of rank them as you go along, at least in your head. That's why I believe a run through is important. Some clubs feel that they're going to save time by not having a run through, but I think it actually costs them because the judge can be thinking about what he or she is going to score during the run through. In the final analysis, all you can really do as a judge is use your best judgment. Sometimes there'll be discrepancies. Sometimes clubs may ask a judge that is, kind of separate from the other judges, not to put them on the spot, but to just hear what they were thinking about why they scored it either higher or lower. So that doesn't mean that one judge is, out of it and the other two are right, but we do see things differently. After the scoring would be the comments, providing the rationale for the score and to offer helpful suggestions. Some clubs don't want a lot of comments. It seems that they don't want to see or hear bad things said about their photographs, but in my opinion, it's important. Our club can't always provide comments for every image because we just have too many, but we try to provide as many as we possibly can. Here are some of the things that you may have heard judges talk about in making their comments: the exposure, the lighting, things of that sort, composition. And there's a lot that can be said about a particular photo. First and foremost, I always try to find something positive to say. That's the way that I was taught when I was beginning to judge many, many years ago. And I think it's a good way to do it. I don't think you just want to start in by ripping into a particular photograph. Remember, the photographer must have thought it had some merit, or he wouldn't have put it in the first place. Here's a list of some favorable comments. I've heard judges say, well, what if I can't think of anything good to say about it? And my reply is always, you have to be able to think of something good to say. There's so much that you can talk about: the subject matter, the color saturation, the composition, etc. So, even if you have to make a copy of this and cut it out and put it on your wrist to remind you, there's always something favorable to say about an image. After that would come the unfavorable comments, things that could be improved upon. And I think that the judge should approach it that way. You're trying to help people to create better images. So you don't want to come down on them, but maybe offer some helpful suggestions that might lead to a better image. And here are some of the ones that you've undoubtedly heard before, and you could add to this. I want to call your attention to number 13, which I have used before. I don't hear a lot of judges use it. Good family picture, but not camera club quality. Because sometimes you just have to say that. Now, that is not this image, but I'll get to one in a moment. So this image, a comment you could make is that it's the subject is nice and sharp, even a nice catch light in the eye, but there are a lot of distractions in the background, and perhaps you could have waited for this gosling to move a little bit so that it would have had a cleaner background. This one, there's an obvious flaw with the cow on the right that's had his head cut off. I think that could easily be handled by cropping. And these days in digital photography, you certainly could add some color to this scene. If the blank area of sky is too much and too distracting, you certainly could crop down from the top to eliminate a lot of that. Or change the sky if you know how to do that. Here's the one that I'm talking about that may be a good family image, but not camera club quality would apply to, because you could hem and haw as a judge about better lighting that's needed on the face and the chest, etc. But even if you had that perfect, even if you had great lighting, it's still just a dog sitting there on a little bit of snow with a stick in front of him. It's never going to be that great a photograph. And I think it's not a bad idea to let people know that. Here are some judging pitfalls that I hope future judges will avoid. One would be a lack of interest in lesser quality photos. I've had no difficulty finding lesser quality photos for this program. I just went back to my old files. So even if this is, a bit out of focus and you can't see detail in the bird, it's a nice attempt, and you can talk about compositionally, it's pretty well handled, and then go on to help the maker. This one is pretty obvious as to what the flaw is. There's nice lighting on the subject, nice detail in the horse. I would say the light is just about perfect, but the merger with that horse in the back is, of course, a problem. And these days in digital photography, you could get rid of the yellow, I guess it is some kind of a little rope or something that is very distracting in the field as well. Some judges are just too slow in their judging and then in their commenting, causing people to squirm in their seats. Try to think about what you're going to score it and use your best judgment, and then make your comments as quickly and concisely as you can. And try to have an open mind to new techniques, even if they're not your thing. The competitions are generally listed as open. So is digital photography and judging digital photography very different from judging film photography? Well, the first question is, what's film? Well, for those of us who remember it, I don't think it's a lot different, except that there are some new techniques that are now used. So if you're judging something like this, you could try to judge it as a straight shot, but it isn't a straight shot. It's obviously an artistic rendition, whether you like the purple background or you'd maybe prefer a bluer that more matches the sky. Make your comments accordingly. But there certainly is a lot to like in this photo before you start knocking it. We do see black and whites. Our club doesn't do black and white prints anymore. And I know a lot of clubs have stopped doing prints since we've all gone to a Zoom format for our judging. But you can still judge images that are monochrome, and basically the same rules apply. This is not a great shot. I'm not even going to spend time on it. This one I want to call to your attention. I was really taken by this at the time when I was out west and saw this and captured this shot. I loved the cloud sitting on top of the mountain, but it was very early in the morning, and I didn't have a great digital camera at the time, and I got a lot of digital noise in the picture. It did well in competition, but I was actually embarrassed by it because, in my opinion, it just had too much noise. I was able to work on it afterward to get the noise level down. But noise level is something that you can consider in a digital image. Also, over sharpening. This one is clearly over sharpened. I don't think we see them this bad very often, but you get the idea. You want some sharpening, but not so much. So there you have it. Technical quality, composition, interest, and impact that will affect the score that you give. Next, I'd like to just briefly touch on extending the vision of camera clubs. And in my opinion, camera clubs have had their vision extended by quite a bit with digital photography and people doing lots of creative things with it. So, we talk about not wanting to see the same old thing, the same old pretty pictures. Well, this one clearly has a sun that has been digitally put in there, and maybe it's a little bit too much, but you get the idea. This one was enhanced to make it more of an artistic shot than just a straight shot of these sailboats. This one was enhanced. I actually put the flowers in. I don't think I did a very good job because this is a very old photo, but having the photos on the left and the right, I think, did add to this image. Now, here's more or less a straight shot, and these are the kinds of pretty pictures that some judges say that we've seen too many of. Well, if you feel that way, then you have to reward images that are not just pretty pictures, but that are a little bit different. So use your eye to, look at things a little bit differently. I'm not saying this is a great image, but it's an example of trying to be a little creative. Now, just as with abstract art, when you do creative images, some judges will get it and others won't. And you as a photographer are going to have to realize that when you put them in to begin with, that they may fly and they may not. So you could end up with a range of scores. And sometimes we'll ask the low and high judge to tell us why they gave the image what they did. Sometimes judges will, not really accept the newer creative images, leading to conformity to the very images that we say we've seen too many times. So I don't have an answer to this. All I would say is that if you enjoy seeing different images and creative images, then as a judge, you have to reward them. All right, so scoring and commenting next. And I'm going to change one more time. So let me stop sharing and go to my next sequence and hope this all works. Yeah. Let's see if we can make this one work. All right, so in this next section, I'm going to let you be the judge. And I'm not going to call on anybody and, point them out and put them on the spot. But I'm going to ask the audience to, as you're looking at these images, think about what you would give them. I've already had 5 of my friends look at them and score them. So you could kind of be scoring along with them and seeing if you agree with the comments that they would make. So here's the first image. And it's maybe typical of a camera club image. I've tried to find some images that you might actually see in a competition. And here's what the judges said. By the way, why 5? Well, because I thought it would be good to even have more judges than we usually do, and to give you an idea of what happens when particular judges show up. So if the 3 judges on the right showed up on a particular night, you won't only have 18 points, not a very good shot. If the 3 on the left show up, then you've got 20 points. Still not a great shot, but better. On the positive side, good composition. The swan has room to swim, a nice diagonal. On the negative side, slightly overexposed, detail is lost, and some found the ducks in the background to be distracting. Nice fall image. I was out there this year. It looks just about as nice as it did here. And here's what they said. Basically 7s with 1 8 in there. Nice fall colors, good exposure, good depth of field. On the negative side, too much going on in this image. Perhaps concentrate on one subject. So again, depending on who shows up, you could have 22 points if the 3 on the left show up. You could have 21 points if the 3 on the right show up that night. All right, nice close up. And here's what the judges had to say. This was quite a spread from 7 to 10. On the positive side, a striking portrait, nice catch light in the eye, nice texture of feathers. On the negative side, 1 or 2 felt it could maybe use some cropping, that the feathers in the chest area are somewhat soft, and that the lighting is a little bit flat. So look at the difference here. If the 3 on the right show up, you've got 23 points, just an okay score. If the 3 on the left show up, then you've got 27 points, and you're probably winning a prize for this. So it very much does depend on the judges. All right, here's another one taken up in New Hampshire. Sugar Hill, I believe, is the area in June or July, June, I think. And here's what the judges said. They liked this quite a bit, 8s and 9s. On the positive side, pleasing composition, great color saturation, nice and sharp. On the negative side, maybe oversaturated. I'm not sure if I agree with that, or over sharpened. So there you go. All right, I think there's one or two more. And this one, 6, 7, and 8. So if the 3 judges on the right showed up, then you had 21 points. If the 3 on the left showed up, then you had 22 points. If the 3 in the middle showed up, you had 23 points. So again, it depends on the judges. On the positive side, the canoe and paddlers fill the frame, good color combination. On the negative side, kind of harsh lighting, and the front of the canoe slightly soft. I'm not sure that I agree that that really makes much of a difference. So there you have it. In my opinion, the basics of Camera Club judging. So I hope that people will go out and they themselves will become judges and help camera clubs out. Can make for an enjoyable evening. And if you're not ready to go out judging, but you're part of the crowd trying to improve your own photography, hopefully this has given you something to think about. Technical quality, composition, interest, and impact. And you'll see your photography improved. It doesn't take an Einstein to be a good camera club judge, but people are appreciative of judges, and especially when we try to help them out and help their photography. Yes, you will have some disagreements once in a while. People won't necessarily agree with your assessment of a particular image, but hopefully most people will. And the person that first got me into judging many, many years ago used to say that the nicest compliment a judge could be paid is to be asked back again, because that means he didn't do too badly the first time around. So before this happens to me, I'm going to just tell you to go out and you be the judge. All right, let me hope that this worked and hope that this helps you out in your trying to put together something for future judges.